So I began to get very, very sleepy, and this was, I knew that one of the first symptoms of mushroom intoxication is yawning. So it was one of the reasons I liked mushrooms is they're relaxing, relatively speaking, and so I knew to anticipate that, but this was well beyond that. This was a soporific effect, as if I was drunk, I was falling over. I really couldn't stand, and I feared I might hurt myself, so I got into bed. And I became scared because I thought, well, maybe there was something wrong. I hadn't, this was early on, and I really hadn't read everything yet, and didn't really know so much, and so I was concerned. But at a certain point, I sort of leveled out, and I was going into and out of consciousness, kind of like in a sleepy, hypnagogic kind of a state that was not unpleasant. And I have to hold. That's okay. Sleepy, hypnagogic kind of a state. And I was very deep into my history. I think I was communing with my mother and my memory of, it was very deep. And all of a sudden, I heard from above, outside of my body, a voice say, "Roll over on your back to signify you are ready to receive this information." And I was astounded because, I believed it was a chemical effect in my brain, and yet I heard it outside of my body. There was no doubt that it was coming from outside of my body. And the voice was not friendly. The voice was a little cold, disinterested at best. And I was very involved with what I was doing at the time, intrapsychically. And I felt, I said, I don't know. I've heard about alien abductions and everything, and I just didn't feel safe doing that and refused to do it. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, But that experience was extraordinary to have it was the only auditory hallucination I'd ever heard. And it was really an amazing experience. So about a month later, I was in a workshop with Terence McKenna at the New York Open Center. And I mentioned it to him. But I had sort of forgotten about the lesson part. And so I told him the whole story. And I said, well, is there any way that mushrooms could have this experience, this effect? Were they old maybe, or something? And he says, no, there's no way that would ever happen that I know of unless you had taken lecithin. So I, of course, got very excited, and I told him the whole story. And he said that his brother Dennis had heard that from a friend of his. So something's going on there. And I mention it just to put it on the record.